Welcome, everybody, to a special kickoff, Upland Legits kickoff show. My name is X1 the Gamer. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. I am joined today by Matt Bianchi. You know him as General Mort, and also Adon Zuckerman. Matt, Adon, thank you very much for joining us and taking time for this special Legits kickoff overview.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be here and show this off. I'm a huge football fan. If you guys, you guys are aware, but if you guys didn't know, I'm super excited about all of this and just can't wait to share with everybody.
Yeah, I'm here in Upland headquarters and super excited to kick off Legits. We've been waiting for this for a long time, so thanks for having us, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you guys know, too, everybody that's watching, Matt is a Giants fan. So if you're in chat, if you're in Discord, feel free to give him a hard time.
Yeah. Well, you may not know, but I am also a New York Giants
fan. Oh, I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. Oh, well, there you go. So give both Adon and Matt a hard time there. I thought we'd start off today. We did have the release of Kansas City on Friday. We had to close down because there were some issues. We had the stress test today. Adon, will you just take a minute and review for everybody watching where we're at with the Kansas City and Rutherford release and how the stress test went today?
Sure. So circling back to Friday, and as you guys know, we keep getting more and more people, proactively participating in these city openings. What happened on Friday was that the transaction volume that went to the blockchain went to a point where there was starting to be a gap between transactions that happen on the blockchain and kind of like the ability of that being reflected in the Upland backend. And that created some situations where, for example, we knew a property was minted, but it wasn't yet reflected in the backend who is the owner. So that created some issues with sends, and especially with sends, like people getting errors, not being able to send to where they wanted to go, and potentially some minting issues where, again, the ownership was not secured on our backend yet. We're working to resolve it, and then we had a stress test this morning. We got some very important information that we were looking for in our attempts to resolve all of these issues. One kind of like very interesting issue that surfaced was that we had a small bug in our discovery range algorithm that had to do with the latitude of the Earth. So as you guys know, it's doing like a 200 or so meter radius of discovery. When you reflect it on a globe surface like the Earth, it requires some mathematical computations to take place. And the interesting thing is that in Kansas City, the result of that computation resulted in a much higher radius. That part we have identified and we're fixing. But having said that, we needed then to not proceed with the stress test because we want to set the discovery range to where it should be. So again, we got the information we needed. We did not proceed to do the limited collection release and stress test. But again, we are working now to be at a place where we can actually launch the cities with a smooth experience.
Very good. Thank you very much. And for everybody in chat, we'll have more information about the city launches later in announcements. If you're not over on Discord, make sure you're over on Discord. That's where we do most of our announcements, and also follow us on all of our other social media channels. Today's show is going to go as follows. We'll have a presentation here. Matt Bianchi is going to walk us through a little bit about what are the Upland Legits, how does it tie in with the NFLPA, and just preview a little bit about what's to come. If you have questions, please submit your questions here in YouTube chat, and we'll take them. We'll answer as much of them as we're able to. And with that, Matt, let's jump into the 2020 Legits kickoff overview.
Yeah, let's do it. Excuse me. Anyway, so if you guys haven't heard, and I don't know how you wouldn't have, but NFL players are coming to Upland. We are proud and excited to welcome the identities of over 2,000 NFL players to the Upland metaverse. And this is just probably the most exciting development we've had, and I can't wait to show you guys how we're going to be prepping for this. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 2020 Legits sale, and this is going to be a little bit different from how 2021 Legits work, right? So 2020 Legit packages, we are going to be selling these Legits in packs directly in the Upland store for US dollars specifically. So these will contain NFLPA Legits from the 2020 season. So this is not related to 2021 whatsoever. And basically what this means is that you can only get Legits from games that have already passed, right? So this is your only chance to get Legits for any players that have switched teams, and your only chance to get Legits from games that happened last season. So these will come in the form of packs. So basically, you'll be purchasing a collection of, each pack will have like a different collection of items in them. These will be both essentials and mementos, and each one will have a variation of 10 different items. So on this initial sale, on this first 2020 legit sale, there is going to be limited availability, and these packs will be discounted only for this first sale that we're going to have. After this first initial sale, we are going to be going to our standard pricing following. We'll release some more details on that later today. And there is going to be limited availability, because we don't know how many essentials would have been minted in 2020. We've kind of guesstimated, and there is going to be a limited availability for all of these items. Lastly, you will be able to start building your fan score with 2020 legits. So just owning these legits is going to have an influence on your fan score for teams and individual players. So we'll have a little bit more on this a little bit later in the presentation, but just be aware that, this is kind of when your first opportunity to start building that fan score, right? So 2021 legits, the primary markets are going to be a little bit different. This is going to be mintable at team stadiums or city stadiums for UPX directly. So this is actually not going to be for US dollars. This is actually a really exciting development for UPX as a currency. Obviously, our goal is always to give as much utility as possible to UPX. And I think this adds a very significant, opportunity to use UPX, right? Your UPX earnings are now more relevant than they've ever been before because there's now an auxiliary use outside of just buying properties. So legits for the 2021 season will be in the primary market. So these will be essentials and mementos for games starting in week 1 and onward. And essentials are going to be mintable year round. So these aren't going to be limited by number of mints. You basically be able to go to any stadium at any given time and mint those essentials, but mementos will have to be game by game. So the pool of legits will actually steadily be increasing or inflating over the course of the season. So by the end of the season, we'll have kind of the complete package, right? 2020 legits are individual items. So remember, we talked about how 2020 legits are coming in packs. All items for the 2021 season are going to be individual. So you actually purchase the items individually, whether it be a cap, a jersey, that sort of thing. In 2021, we are going to have the ability to swap legits between players. The initial function will just be swapping 1-to-1. So it's going to be similar to trading cards. We'll let players swap to improve their scores, and ultimately they'll be able to complete collections by doing that. And lastly, we talked about our fan score, but your fan score will build based on the items that you own, the collections that you complete. So as you build your portfolio, your fan score is going to continue to grow. Basically, what that does is this is going to improve your chances to be selected to mint a memento. So there's always going to be a small chance for anyone to get in, for anybody to sneak in and mint one of those mementos. But the more that you build your portfolio up and build your fan score, the better chances that you're going to have. So the items for the current season are always going to have a higher weight on your fan score as well. So just keep in mind that 2020 legits are going to have a little bit less of an impact on your fan score in the 2021 season, but nevertheless will still have a significant impact. You have a question, David?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry.
No, so coming soon, we are working on some more stuff. Over the next several weeks and months, we will be deploying the following things: collections. Of course, this is going to allow users to complete different legits collections for both an UPX bonus, and it will boost their fan score. Players will also be able to merge or burn their legits to reproduce mementos in the form of replicas. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. Autographs, players are actually going to be able to obtain digital autographs for their legits. And then, of course, secondary markets, basically kind of taking what we've done with Upland properties and kind of repeating that same mechanic with legits. Players are going to be able to buy, sell, and trade their legits for both UPX and US dollars. So just clear to make that distinction. When you're minting legits, much like how you mint properties, it's UPX only, but secondary market is going to be both USD and UPX.
Yeah, quick question. Can we go back? Can we stay on that first screen,
Sure.
actually? And we have a question from Too Stupid to Win. Idan, will 2021 legit and mementos be active at NFL stadiums in week 2?
They will not be in week 2. So we are the sequence of things is that the first 2 things that will be deployed as the 2021 product is going to be the memento minting primary markets, and then we are also in parallel working on the ability to swap legits 1-to-1 between players. So basically, both the ability to start kind of like affecting your fan score by trading with other players, and then also taking that fan score and then queuing up for the opportunity to mint mementos in games. It will not be available for game 2, but we are going to launch it over the next couple of weeks. So I want to say in the ballpark of week 4 or 5, this is our targets. And we are doing, whatever humanly is possible to get there quickly, but you'll still be able to kind of like play around with the 2020 legits very soon.
Great question. Thank you very much, Too Stupid to Win, for writing in. Aaron Burser writes in and says, will the 2020 legits that you purchased for UpX count towards your account's net worth?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much for the question, guys. Keep them coming. I think we can go to the next slide, Matt.
Sure. Oh, whoops. So for this initial sale, I just want to give you guys kind of a little bit of insight how these are going to work, how these packs are going to be structured. So you see on the left, basically, like I said, these are going to be available directly in the Upland store for US dollars, and kind of see the different levels of packs there, and we'll go more into detail on that in a second. But the 2020 packs are basically going to be essentials and mementos from the 2020 season that will only contain legits from the top 30 players in each team. So typically NFL rosters have 53 players on the roster. We're only going to be doing the top 30 only for 2020. This will be different in 2021. We've broken these players up into 2 different categories, superstar players and impact players. Superstar players are considered to basically be the top 3 players on that team, top 3 players that had the most impact, and then impact players, the top 27, excluding that top 3 on each team for 2020. So every pack is going to have some combination of superstar and impact players. Any questions on that one?
Nope, not yet. I think we're good.
Okay.
I do just want to mention real quick to chat though. We are giving away essentials, some essentials, the first essentials here during today's show. Now these won't arrive to you until essentials actually drop for everybody. But in order to sign up, I've pinned the entry form up to the top of chat. So make sure you sign up, and we'll do some drawings here before the end of the show.
Yep, we sure will. And we'll even show you guys some of the things that you can win a little bit later down the line. So let's take a look at these packs and actually dive a little bit deeper into what is exactly in each of these. So these packs are bundles of Legits products from the 2020 season in particular, as we mentioned. So let's start with the Essentials pack. So I don't know if you guys can read that. It's pretty small, but I'll go ahead and give you guys a bit of an overview. These will basically contain 10 NFL Impact Player Essentials. This does not include any legits for superstar players. So these are only essentials, and these are only for impact players. So these are basically, some of the most common items that you're going to encounter with regards to legits. The game pack is going to have 9 2020 season essentials, and it will always have at least one memento from the 2020 season. This pack also actually has a very small chance to include a game ball. Game ball basically is only minted 1 per game, and that's awarded to kind of like the game MVP, right? So there's a very small chance for you to get that in the game pack, but it's pretty unlikely.
Matt, I'm gonna jump in and maybe a very slight correction that you're gonna get exactly 1 memento in that pack, and that memento again may be a game ball, but it can be other types of mementos.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse. I just meant to say that there's a small chance, right? So, but yes, you will getting 1 memento for the game pack. Superstar pack is similar. You'll be getting 9 essentials and 1 memento as well. However, these will contain 9 superstar player essentials and 1 superstar memento. So these are kind of from the crop of those top 3 players across each team, right? So this also contains a small chance to have a game ball. I believe almost every single one does, except for the essentials pack. Is that correct, Edon?
Sorry, ask again.
There's a chance to have a game ball in every single pack except the essentials pack, correct?
Correct, but towards kind of like the bigger packages, there's an increased chance of getting
exactly.
game ball, and then there are some that have to do with the postseason, which you'll probably be covering in a sec.
Exactly, yeah. So then we get to the postseason pack. So these packs are only for games that occurred during the postseason, so in the playoffs, right? So the postseason pack, the baseline will contain 9 impact player essentials and 1 impact player memento. So we kind of have this, the essentials, you get only impact players, game pack only impact players, and then postseason, the first one is only impact. And then we have the superstar pack for the postseason, which contains 9 superstar player essentials and 1 superstar player memento. And of course, this also has a chance to have a game ball. And of course, the chances of getting the game ball kind of increase as we go across these packs. So these are going to be our 5 packs that we're going to roll with for the 2020 season. Each one basically has kind of a different degree of variability with what you can obtain. And as David mentioned earlier, these packs are not going to be delivered immediately, but they will be dropped to players over the next couple of weeks as we start rolling out all of the essentials.
Yeah, we have gone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Go ahead. And just an important distinction: we're going to make all these chances public, so you'll know exactly what you're basically.
Yeah, we are working on a player guide that's going to have all the details on what the probabilities are and stuff like that, and we will be releasing that to you guys probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we are getting a couple questions on pricing here. Just so you guys know, we will be dropping a post with all of the pricing for each of the packs, so stay tuned for that, and you'll be able to see everything there. For those of you who haven't yet, I see a lot of people typing !enroll into the chat. That is not how you sign up for the drawing. The drawing is pinned to the top of chat. Just click on it and then fill out the form, and we will capture your information and go from there. Let's actually do a drawing here real quick for our first essential. Matt, who is our first, or what's our first essential that we're giving away?
Actually, we're going to be doing one of my favorite players in the NFL and probably the most dominant defensive player I've seen in the last 10 years, Aaron Donald.
Oh, Aaron Donald, solid.
Yes. We're starting off hot.
Starting off hot with an Aaron Donald, everybody. Again, to fill out or to be included in the drawing, make sure you just fill out the form that is pinned to the top of chat. And our first winner of our first Essentials giveaway of Aaron Donald, which is a solid one, that's a good one to get, is the one and only Rogue Agent, or Rogue Gent. Sorry, Rogue Gent, congratulations. We will contact you. Again, this Essential will come to you as soon as we drop Essentials for everybody, when they open up for everybody.
You are now the proud owner of the very first legit in Upland. I mean, not yet, but you will be.
Yes. Congratulations. Again, you're going to be able to see these at the end of the slide here. We'll have them shown off for you. So
yeah, we'll have a couple examples. So let's jump into a little bit more on Legits in general. Of course, some of you may have read our posts that kind of outlined some of this stuff, but I think, showing is a little bit better than telling. So feed your fandom. Let's talk about Essentials. Essentials are common rarity NFTs that players are basically going to be able to mint on an ongoing basis. So these are going to be available year-round throughout the season, and they can basically be minted for any team throughout the 2021 season. Essentials from previous years are going to have to purchase on the secondary market. So we are kind of creating that scarcity by only allowing you to mint Essentials for the current season. So, if there is a essential for a player that, you really liked for a particular season, you have to buy that on the secondary market later down the line. There are going to be limited variants of the Essentials, so there's always a chance to receive a limited variant, such as like an away jersey, something like that. And these are going to be limited by mint numbers, so there's a little bit of a distinction there. So most Essentials are going to be unlimited, at least for the duration of the season, but there will be some that are limited by a mint number. And this is going to be true for both the 2020 and the 2021 Legits.
Yeah, and Matt, maybe just to clarify, again, when you buy an Essential, whether it's on the primary market in 2021 or as a part of the 2020 sale, there is going to be always a chance that instead of getting the basic Essential, you're going to get the variant, which is limited by mint numbers.
Exactly. So let's move on and talk a little bit about Mementos. So Mementos are kind of your opportunity to capture a piece of history, right? These are rare, unique legits, usually one of one, that commemorate the game performances of players. So these come complete with player stats. You're essentially capturing kind of that moment in time, that performance by a player. Imagine a player that you really love having a career day, and you'd basically be the sole owner of that digital record, accounting that moment, that performance, right? So I, like David mentioned, I'm a huge Giants fan. If I could go back in time and somehow Upland was a thing and snag a memento for one of Eli Manning's Super Bowl victories, like that would mean so much to me as a fan, just because those moments are so important to me growing up, right? So these really are your opportunity to kind of get a piece of that history and own that for the rest of the time, right? Or sell it, whatever you want to do, right? So you can recreate some of these iconic NFTs. So while the mementos are rare one-of-one original NFTs, replicas are going to be created by merging legit essentials. So you are going to have the opportunity to replicate some of these mementos, but there is going to be a very clear distinction that replicas are replicas and not the original mementos. It's kind of like owning a print of a famous painter. You have something that looks the same, but there's very clear data that says it's not the original, right? So, it looks the same, but it might not feel the same. Merging won't be available right away, as we mentioned earlier, but that is going to be coming pretty soon over the next several months as we start to roll out a bunch of these other products. So looking ahead, we do have some other legits that are going to be coming to Upland, both spotlights and autographs. Spotlights are going to be video moments that are going to be tokenized and distributed as NFTs. So this could be anything from players training to fan videos, stuff like that. And then all of these legits are going to have the ability to be digitally autographed by the brand or the persona themselves via these virtual signing events that are going to happen in the game. Those will have also, registration mechanics and similar to how we're handling Mementos.
Yeah, and maybe to pause here on this matter, because I've heard some kind of like a confusion around it. So the way we've built the digital autograph mechanics, so these are the actual digital versions of the autographs for the players, and every legit would be signable by its respective player, and that doesn't require the actual presence of the player. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these signing events, they may be accompanied by live streams by actual NFL players. But again, all of that digital signing mechanics, they are kind of like bundled into the actual game mechanics around NFL player legits. So that's going to be an exciting part where basically you can imagine a game ends, and if you stick around, if your avatar in Upland is at the stadium, you can stick around and wait for a random amount of players to walk out after the game and digitally sign your legits if you own the legits of the players that walked out. But all of that is kind of like metaphorical, and it's embedded within the game mechanics of Upland Legits.
We do have a couple questions regarding spotlights and autographs here. Chuck Kurth writes in and says, are the autographs all going to be unique?
Well, okay, so the way it goes, this is a digital version, an official digital version of the player autograph. It will be embedded on the actual 3D model of the legit, and it's going to appear in different places on that item. So it's not going to be all like any signed legit may look different than the same legit signed by the same player, but it may be on the different spot, maybe of a different size. So it's going to emulate like the actual signing of that item. And then all of those autographs would be notarized on the blockchain. So you would be able to verify if the legit was actually signed by the player digitally on the blockchain. So I hope that answers the question, because it may be interpreted in different ways.
Yeah, Chuck, thank you very much for that question. Greg Harrison writes in and says, or asks, are spotlights actual in-game video moments from the game broadcasts or something else?
No. So first of all, we're talking about NFL players, and we are going to have player ambassadors that actually, you may see them in the game actually, and they may accompany, signing events. And another thing is that they are going to produce these spotlights. So it can be moments, basically personal moments of those players. They may be taking shots of themselves training, or maybe hanging out with their friends or stuff like that. And there will be opportunities for them to make them into NFTs and thus engage their fan base through Upland. And again, we are going to have more information about that when we kind of like debut this feature. It's coming a bit further down the road in the 2021 season.
Very cool. Thank you again, everybody, for your questions. Please keep them coming.
Are we ready for another giveaway, Dave?
I think we are. Who is up next? Who are we giving away next?
All right, next we're going to be giving away Super Bowl winning linebacker Vontae David, played for Tampa in the previous Super Bowl. One of my favorite linebackers in the NFL currently. Just a honestly badass. So,
another solid. We're getting
hit it, David.
all-star defense players that we're giving away right now.
If this was Madden, you'd have a very solid lineup already.
Be the ultimate team right there.
Yeah.
And our winner for this one is the one and only Matt Hat 10. Matt Hat 10, congratulations. Well done. Again, you will receive your essentials when they drop for everybody. If you haven't yet, make sure you fill out the form pinned to chat in order to be included in today's drawing.
Awesome. All right, so we've got, I think, a pretty good handle on legits. Let's take a look at some examples. So here we're going to have a bit of a video preview of what the experience is going to be like for Memento. As you see here, we have an Aaron Rodgers jersey. All of these will be basically inspectable 3D objects, and this is kind of a view of what it'll look like to take a look at the player's stats for each particular game. So you can see all of their relevant stats, the completions, how many pass attempts they had, average yards per completion, whether or not they threw any touchdowns. And you'll notice that, Aaron Rodgers played particularly well on this game, and each of these stats is kind of on fire, right? So each stat that becomes on fire basically has a chance to turn the whole jersey into kind of like an on fire, and gives it this unique visual flair that is kind of truly, irreproducible, right? So that's just a preview into kind of what those are going to look like. As I mentioned, they will be fully inspectable, so you have a screen where you can kind of go in and tilt and look at the jersey in any particular angle that you want.
I think Matt, we've kind of like really tried to reimagine here what does that collectible type of commemorative NFT looks like, and basically the entire thing is a 3D space, right? So it's not just the legit model. The entire thing is a 3D space, and you can see those transitions happen between kind of like 4 mementos between the player view and kind of like the player stats view. And that entire model is part of the NFT that is notarized on the blockchain. So that's pretty cool. These are going to be, one of the first probably NFTs of these types that are mobile first, that are optimized for mobile display. You can go around with your device and, show off your cool new NFTs. And then just one note about the fire stats. Again, what we're seeing here is not the final visuals of the fire. That still needs to get approved. We're going to start out with those notarizations that just enable players to verify that these, like, what is the fire level of that specific memento. But that could get actually much cooler down the road once we have gone through all the approval processes.
Right. So, everything you guys are seeing here today, there always is a chance that it could change a little bit when the products arrive, but all this is for demonstration purposes. So awesome. Thank you, Don. Any questions from the community?
Yes, Spry Fox in chat just asked, are the on fire stats based on that player's stat averages, or is it going to be based on league averages?
So, okay, that's a great question, by the way. And the way we approach it is that each season, we kind of like look at the previous season, and we're going to look at the percentiles for each stat and determine what is the threshold for catching fire for each individual stat. And then based on the next season's player performance, each of these top 5 stats that you see in those bars is going to either be on fire or not, which creates kind of like a fire level for the entire memento between 0 and 5. So 0, no stat is on fire. 5, it's basically all on fire. So that's kind of like a career day, and those would be very rare. And again, that matches kind of like, that is based on previous seasons' percentiles for each stat.
Great question. Champ Rockwell writes in and wants to know, will we see retired player legits, and will there be a secondary market for these NFTs?
That's a great question. So again, when we launch this product, this is going to be about the players that were active in 2020 and active in 2021. But there is an opportunity for us also to do NFTs for players that have retired but are still kind of like participating in the NFL Player Association. So there will be opportunities for that in the future. We're currently focusing on 2021 primary markets and the 2020 already issued mementos.
Very good. Should we do another giveaway? Is it time, Matt?
Yeah.
This is number 3. We're giving away 5 total, everybody. This is our 3rd giveaway. And who are we giving away this time?
All right. They're going to be getting something I'm quite jealous of as a huge Giants fan. One of my favorite corners in the NFL, James Bradbury. And we're going to be doing an essential cap for James Bradbury.
James Bradbury, another defensive all-star right there. This is the ultimate defensive team. Yeah. And our winner of the James Bradbury Essential is the one and only Gamership. Gamership, congratulations. That's a quality get. Well done. Again, stay tuned. We've got 2 more Essential giveaways for the rest of the stream. So if you haven't yet signed up, link is pinned to the top of chat.
Indeed. All right, so let's just take a quick look at some other examples. So, like I said, we are going to have a wide variety, across basically all the players in the NFL. So you can see here, these are some of the players we're giving away today. We just gave away these 3, Aaron Donald, Devontae David, and James Bradbury. So these do say mementos, but we are going to be giving away the essentials versions of these. And, here's some more examples of the caps for some of the other defensive players in the league. Although Quentin Nelson is an offensive lineman, so he's not a defensive player. But just kind of give you guys a bit of an insight as to what these things are going to look like. There is going to be kind of a high degree of variability across all of them. there's just so many different players and different positions and things in the NFL. So
yeah, and by the way, what we're not seeing here is kind of like so when you get an essential, basically you get the same type of NFT with the same model, but without basically those bars, and that can be converted into displaying the stats that commemorate the appearance. So basically, I mean, think about it as a metaphor, right? The essential would be if I walked into a fan shop and bought whatever, specific player's jersey, right? I can do it in any fan shop and across any point in time. But the metaphor is that this would be the jersey that the player wore to the actual game, and that becomes the memento that commemorates the appearance. And that's one of a kind.
Exactly. So very exciting stuff. David, do you have something to add?
Yeah, we are getting questions just about how trading and purchasing on secondary markets will work. I think now's a good time to talk about that. Dr. TID writes in and says, will you be able to trade properties for legits and legits for properties?
Well, the short answer is yes. But the long answer is, again, this is part of the visions we've laid. And again, it also ties in eventually to the NFT portal, right? Because it's not just legits and properties, but it could also be anything you own from outside of Upland that you bring in through the NFT portal. So at the beginning, when we launch these tradings, again, the lowest hanging fruit, we want to put that as soon as possible out there so players have the chance to kind of like start to strategize around their fan scores. You'll be able to trade one legit for one legit between players. And then next, you'll be able to trade multiple legits for multiple legits as kind of like an evolution of this feature. And then finally, you'll be able to trade any NFT in Upland for any NFT in Upland, or any multiple amount of NFTs in Upland to any multiple amount of NFTs. So again, we want to deliver the functionality as soon as possible so players can strategize around their fan scores. So the first implementations will only be one for one and legit for legit. Later on, absolutely, people will be able to trade different types of NFTs for different types of NFTs inside of Upland. And this is a mind-blowing vision if you think about it, right? Like, I'll give you, my CryptoKitty and my F1 Delta Racer for your jersey, or for your property and a jersey, right? So that is basically, innovation that we are performing for the first time in the world in Upland.
Yeah, very exciting. For those of you who missed it, we actually did do an NFT portal AMA. You can see it. Link, or if you just scroll our channel here on YouTube, I highly encourage you to go back and watch that AMA all about the NFT portal. And it ties in perfectly with what is coming with the NFLPA and Upland Legits.
Absolutely. And all of these things they're all intertwined, right? I think some people get a little bit caught up on each of these individual things, but they're all supposed to work together, as Adon mentioned. Pulling things in and out of the game via the NFT portal, I think is going to add a lot of utility and a lot of value to the metaverse.
And then maybe, David, just to complete your question, because people did ask about the secondary market. So this will be the first implementation. And by the way, when we envision trading these NFTs down the road, they are going to be kind of like restricted to virtual localities. So you'll only be able to trade where kind of like where people are virtually close to each other in the same city, for example, or you'll be able to do that through your properties if you are away from the city. So we'll have a lot more information about that. But then that's where basically the secondary markets come in, and this is our again, we're implementing on our vision to empower secondary markets through player-run businesses. So Uplanders will be able to operate basically NFL player shops where they can take minted inventory and offer them for sale for either UPX or US dollars. And then, but you don't have to own a business in order to sell your legit, because you can utilize other players' businesses to list your legits for there. And that's part of our model. And we're going to deploy these marketplaces pretty soon. This is something that is scheduled to be in 2021, starting, as we communicated, with the Block Explorer shops. And that infrastructure will serve as the same infrastructure that also serves for NFL player legit shops and also NFT galleries as well.
Greg Harrison just has a comment. He says, location-based NFT marketplace, that's mind-bending.
Yeah, and we've been kind of like, again, I think this was part of our 2021 roadmap. And again, we have been behind on executing on it, and now people know a bit more, a segue into why. But then again, everything ties together, and everything we're going to deploy is going to serve just to empower these concepts. Very excited to see how this plays out. And again, this is the first time people will have utility for the structures in the metaverse beyond the fact that they are just there as NFTs. And it's just the beginning.
Yep. Amen.
Absolutely. All right. So let's take a look at kind of a little bit of what the experience is going to be like for 2021 Legits. So like we mentioned before, players are going to have to queue up for an opportunity to mint a memento. So players essentially will select the city that they are trying to target, or at least the one that they want to purchase Legits for. Once you select that city, you are going to be able to register for either the competing cities, the competing teams in that match. And you'll also be able to view the entirety of the schedule. So you can kind of go back and see what's been going on with those particular teams throughout the season, right? And you also have the results there. You can see the win-loss, all that stuff. So if you're selected, you will have the opportunity to pick a memento of your choice, whether it be a cap or a jersey. And then after the game concludes, the memento will be minted alongside the player stats for that game and then subsequently delivered to you after a certain period of time. So it is going to be different from what the 2020 packs are going to look like. Just to kind of sum up, we are going to have the 2020 packs in the Upland store that are going to be purchasable as bundles. And obviously we have the different levels of bundles there that include the different items. And then 2021 Legits will look a little bit more like this, where you'd be queuing up to get a rare chance to mint one of those awesome mementos.
Yeah, maybe just a small clarification is that when you, when your turn comes and you've successfully been able to mint a memento, you'll be able to choose the player that you're going for, not just the model. Yeah, and then again, the way it works is you secure that minting before the game, which is super cool because then you're going to go to the game and you're going to watch and you're going to probably root for the performance of that player's life, so career. Absolutely. Just to have that reflected in your NFT, and then after the game is done, and by the way, this is the main reason why we used kind of like the box shipping metaphor for receiving those NFTs, because when you buy a memento, when you secure a memento, you can't immediately get it because the NFT is not there yet, because it needs to be included with all the player stats. So the user experience is after you've kind of like successfully been able to secure your memento, after the game ends, it may be a couple of hours, maybe probably up to like a small number of days, you'll receive your fancy package with a memento in your Upland client, and there's going to be an unboxing ceremony where you receive your NFT. So this is basically where this package metaphor originated from, but it's an exciting part of the entire Legit ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna mention that the opportunity to kind of pick the player that you're rooting for, I think, is super awesome, especially with regards to rookies and new players that are kind of getting their first opportunity. You could be the proud owner of the moment where they broke out, right? For their very first really awesome performance that kind of puts them on the map. So I think that concept is incredibly exciting as a fan.
And you know what, Matt? It holds true for essentials as well, because you can imagine that the more popular players get a lot of numbers of essentials minted in a specific season, but then the lesser known players may have less essentials minted, but that can also be an opportunity, because if that player or that rookie develops to be the next star, right? Then imagine his rookie year's essentials would maybe be worth more down the road.
Exactly, and you might be the
only one who has them.
Yeah.
Rich S in chat asks, will there be a maximum number of mementos we can register for?
Okay, so you register for a memento sale in general. And then we have an algorithm that kind of queues up the players. It takes into account the fan scores. It takes into account previous minting. So if you were able to secure a high place in minting in the previous game, you will have a decreased chances in the following game for that same team. And then it also injects a small element of luck, because we want to give, also new players and people who may not have a lot of, financial resources, the opportunity to still participate in those as well. So all of these combined create kind of like the memento queue per team per game. And then if the sequence goes that when the sale opens up, it's kind of like the first version is only per that queue. So each person will have a minute or so to make their picks and secure their memento, but they can only do that once during that phase. When that phase ends, if there are still available mementos, it basically opens up to anybody who's in the vicinity of the stadium. But then you can only mint one, and then you get a cooldown period of a couple of minutes before you can mint the next one. And then after that part of the sale is over, then it basically opens up for everybody. That usually happens probably a couple of hours after the sale has started, depending on the number of people registered for the queue. And then basically it's open to everybody until the mementos run out of inventory. So running out of inventory may happen in any of these stages, depending of the game, depending of the amount of people registered, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be very dynamic in the way it plays out.
Very cool. Let's head in. We're gonna answer some questions here. We had questions submitted via Reddit that we'll go through. Before we do, let's give away one more essentials here. Matt, who are we giving away this time?
This time we're gonna do somebody small. It's my my good friend JJ Watt. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Never heard of him. Who is this guy? So JJ Watt, everybody, this is a big one of my favorite players. If you're out of Arizona, I'm sure you're a giant fan of JJ Watt, and that goes to the one and only Cosmic Dancer. Cosmic Dancer, congratulations, that's huge. JJ Watt, I'm a little bit jealous. DM me, we'll talk. Super exciting. We have one.
You can't play. What are you talking about?
we have one more giveaway that we'll hold for the end of the questions. Again, feel free to write in here on YouTube chat. We have a couple questions that we'll go through that was submitted over on our Reddit thread. If you've not followed us on Reddit, go follow us on Reddit. Also, please come and join us on Discord if you've not yet joined us on Discord. It's a great place to discuss. We do have the NFL PA Legits channel open, as well as a game day channel, and then obviously as Legits expand, there will be other channels in there. It's a great place to connect, discuss everything, answer questions, and just get to know the community. Our first question comes in from Your Prince. This is actually a YouTube question. He wants to know, what are the benefits of having a high fan score other than bragging rights? Also, perhaps you should consider making Legits purchases detract from users' net worth.
Yeah, so a couple of questions there. So again, the fan score, first of all, there are going to be later on leaderboards, competitions, and basically, just information about fan scores as it relates to specific players and then overall combinations thereof. But launching in 2021, the main utility of the fan score is basically determining the final queue of the memento minting events that take place before games. So that is the most crucial part of the fan score aspect. But there will be other parts kind of like implemented going forward. And then, the way for you to affect your fan scores, obviously optimize your inventory of legits. And again, the higher the tier of the player, the more kind of like the fan score impact is. And, the higher value legit. So a replica is worth more than an essential in terms of fan scores, and memento is worth more than a replica, and so on and so forth. And then you'll be able to actually boost up your fan scores by completing collections. And then you'll be able to convert your essentials into replicas in order to do so as well. So there's a lot of gamification around that element that kind of like evolves around the fan score.
Very cool. Thank you, Your Prince, for writing in. Scooby writes in also from YouTube and says, are there plans to branch the Upland Legits into industry beyond sports, such as concerts, movie premieres, Broadway, amusement park openings, etc.?
Absolutely. Great question. And again, Upland Legits is basically an infrastructure of NFT offerings. And what we do is we've taken the concept of, if you imagine a triangle, and one edge of it is the brand or persona, the other is a geolocation that relates to the real world, and the third edge is the NFT. And we connect that through engagement and gamification and emotional vesting from the followers' side. So you can imagine that Legits can serve as the infrastructure for any type of these brands. I can already say we already have signed deals that we haven't announced yet with brands and personas around Legits. So again, the NFL Player Association, while it's a huge first step for brands to kind of like join the Upland metaverse, it's only a first step, and there's going to be a lot of more cool stuff waiting to happen. And we're going to have a lot of more information about that in the future. But again, This is amazing because real world brands, when they see Upland and they see the connection to the real world, that just blows their minds, and it makes it a really easy a pathway for us to onboard them into the metaverse. So look out for much more, like a lot more exciting stuff coming down the road with Upland Legits.
Yeah, very exciting. Shivy writes in and says, "Hi Adon, how can players be confident you will not bungle the release of Upland Legits given the history of some of the city releases, including the latest Kansas City release?"
Yeah, that's a fair question, and there are several layers to that answer. I think the first one is city openings currently are unique in the fact that these are situations where there are thousands and thousands of players all trying to mint the same NFTs at the same time without any engaging mechanic. And we've seen that play time and again. And if you remember what used to happen with, let's say, when we ran Block Explorer stores before we had the registration mechanics, right? It's the same issue. It just creates potentially a poor experience, and it creates a very, very high load on the blockchain and the systems that kind of like coordinate between the blockchain and our backend in order to create that smooth experience. This is not going to be the case with Upland Legits. Upland Legits was designed from the get-go to be kind of like to have a structured way of how players are able to obtain and mint the NFTs. And you can see that with the queuing mechanics and the stadiums that we're going to run in Upland. So it's going to be a bit different than city openings. Now, having said that, we are still going to fix those things with city openings and make them better. Now, do I imagine a future, where, maybe a year from now, where Upland has, millions of players and, potentially a lot more players trying to mint those properties in city openings? We may need to tweak our mechanics for city openings as well, kind of like to do those gauging mechanics. But as far as now, as at least as long as the blockchain itself is able to sustain the transaction volume, which it can, then we're going to just make these city openings better and on par with our current user base and simultaneous activity that they generate.
Lazy Luna from YouTube writes in and says, "Do we still have plans for international cities, or are those scrapped now that we have these legits?"
Absolutely not scrapped, and we've communicated in the past that we were in the process of doing the first international city. Those plans changed once we understood that there's a high likelihood for the NFL Player Association to come on board with Upland. And again, the main reason for this, and I think it's really important to understand, right? We could have opened an international city, but we are doing a very diligent job at trying to maintain the balance between supply and demand of Upland. And now, any new city openings, which we have kept to kind of like smaller cities, with the upcoming next 3 cities. So that would follow basically either the absolute requirement from the utility perspective, but then any further expansion will be done according to the growth in user base and the demand for properties. And then any upcoming short-term expansion will include cities that are NFL cities. So they are kind of like cities that host an NFL team. So that, again, that's just to be able to cast more utility and kind of like strengthen those virtual locality concepts. Because when we launch, each stadium is going to host one division. And so basically 4 teams, with the exception of the Rutherford Stadium, which will host 8 teams currently. And then every time we launch a new city, it will kind of like that team will be taken away from the hosted place and into its natural city. So again, like if people are strategizing around like where to buy properties, they need to keep that in mind, because San Francisco will not host 4 teams forever. San Francisco will eventually only host San Francisco in there.
Very good. We have a question here that we've gotten multiple times. Many players, this is from CDN Station. He says, many players are curious about the NFLPA account, the buildings in progress, and their functionality. Is this an official account, as it has far more spark than most players? And if they are building on properties, utility for our buildings must be just around the corner, correct?
Yeah, and again, we both us as operators of Upland and any brand partners that join the metaverse, they will be held to adhere the same physical constraints and physical rules of the metaverse as any other player. And that's why the NFLPA is being represented with an account. That account will own the stadiums from which the NFLPA primary shops are operated from. And that account will need to use that Spark to construct those stadiums, which will be in the same level of realism as the rest of Upland.
Great question, CDN Station. Thank you very much. We have a question from Lucas Musida. He says, we have here in Brazil one of the biggest communities in Upland, but we're not familiar with American football. And a lot of Upland players aren't necessarily familiar with the NFT world. Could you explain more about how these NFLPA NFTs will bring value to these players?
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Brazil. Great to have you guys in the metaverse. Yeah, so first of all, maybe a couple of ways to answer that. The first one is, first of all, it's a great opportunity to start following football, which is an amazing sport. It's a great way to start getting those NFTs and watching the games and, being excited about your player performance, even if you don't necessarily know, what's the first down or, how the hell do you score 7 points. But that's the first part. But then the other part is, obviously, there are going to be players who are not interested in football, and they don't necessarily have to participate in that NFLPA legit economy that is in Upland. And there will be other brands and other opportunities that they may be more familiar with to kind of like engage with Upland Legits. But having said that, I would say that just the prospect of these partnerships for us to now start onboarding players into Upland that would not have necessarily otherwise come to Upland because they are doing it when they follow the NFL players, that kind of like, again, that increases the flywheel of the economy, like a bigger economy and more number of participants. That means there's more opportunity for people to exchange Apex within themselves, either through properties or through other NFTs or through NFT galleries or what have you. It's more opportunity to onboard ordinary people that follow NFL players into the entire concept of NFTs. And when that just makes the economy more robust and more beneficial for everybody who participates in Upland. So I think that's a very crucial point to understand.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that got me really into football as a kid was doing fantasy football, and I think that this will have the same effect. It's a great way to learn about football and to really become a fan. And
absolutely.
And with
I
that,
agree, because I'm the same way. I got into fantasy or football really hard via fantasy football, and you see these players' names, you don't necessarily know who they are. But I'll put them in the lineup and see how it goes. But it's the same kind of thing. You might mint an essential for a player. I don't know who this guy is, or he's a rookie, and then you never know. You might end up being a spectacular player. So there really is that element of kind of variability and randomness, which is, I think, very exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. With that, Matt, I think this is a good question for you. This is from Obey. He says, I'm not from the U.S. and have zero knowledge of the NFL. In order to participate in this, what is the level of knowledge one should have about the NFL, the players, teams, and leagues to participate successfully?
Well, I think, depends. If you're a gambling man, nothing really. You can kind of just go in and throw darts at the wall and see what happens, see what sticks. But, I definitely think that it's a great way to get engaged. And, I think the best way to go about it maybe to be look at some players, see who you think maybe is interesting, and then find a team. Actually, that's probably the best place to start. Pick a team. What's your favorite city? What's your favorite place in the U.S.? Even if you're not from the U.S., what place do you find fascinating? Start following that team, and then just start grabbing up the essentials for that team. And then I think that's going to be a very natural progression into, watching those players, seeing how they develop and seeing how they grow. And I think it's very, very, likely that a lot of players are going to be getting into football via that path, which I think is amazing. I mean, we're helping grow football, which is great for me. I love football.
Yeah, well said.
I would say also, get on Discord, find yourself an Uplander
Absolutely.
mentor that will teach you and kind of like be a great place to meet people.
Yeah, huge shout out actually to Uplando and some of our moderators, Nubbix, over in Discord. We have an Upland Cafe, and they've been sitting in there daily, just talking and discussing strategies, discussing things for new players, answering questions, and they have been talking about the NFL PA Legits that are coming to Upland, and I'm sure they would love to have you. Just go sit in. You don't have to talk, just listen, and it's a great opportunity to connect and educate yourself as well. Sarah Kitten writes in and asks, do I need to be at an NFL actual stadium to get Upland NFL Legits? If not, will there be some kind of bonus for being at the stadium during that time frame?
Well, does that mean in the real world or virtually enough?
I had the same question.
The reality is blurring. We don't know. Well, yeah, you would have to be virtually in Upland around that stadium for you to mint primary market essentials. For secondary market, you'll need to be virtually at the secondary market shop. There is still no time to real world locations, but that is not something we have not thought about. So keep in mind that may be coming down the road in the future.
Yeah, great question, Sarah Kitten. Thank you very much. Calamity Jane, and we talked about this a little bit during the slides. Matt talked about it a little bit, but let's just review one more time. How will the NFTs be used in game? And once they're in game, can they be transferred out?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in terms of usage, again, Matt covered, again, there's a lot of gamification around building your game score, which goes around completing collections, merging your essentials to create replicas, getting your legits autographed, and then kind of like competing in different competitions with leaderboards, etc., that will all come kind of like down the road. So there's ample opportunity to kind of like play around, and obviously, trade with other Uplanders, right? You don't even have to spend Apex for that. Find the partner for you to trade, whatever. You can find, two individual Uplanders who are both optimizing for different cities that they want to follow. Then it makes a lot of sense to trade your essentials without going through any kind of like secondary markets to do so. So there's a lot of opportunity. And then with regards to taking it out, again, we have not yet had the download token, and we may have that opportunity in the future, but currently everything is tradable openly, but inside of Upland.
Very good. Thank you very much, Calamity Jane, for that question. Ellen Chusis asks, does having an NFL player card earn you monthly income somehow, and can you park them at a property for a bonus?
No.
Great question, Ellen. Let's see. Let's take one or two more questions here. Forward Account writes in and says, there was a great example of a fan story of how Lori is a diehard football fan who runs a small Cleveland-based fleet of decor moving vans in Upland. Is there a guide on how we can run a business in Upland?
Well, yes, but it's not been made public yet. So again, we're going to introduce businesses in 2021. It's very important for us now, especially with the NFL Player Association coming on board with Upland, to empower this set of products through secondary markets in Upland, the way we've envisioned them as businesses. So, please bear with us. It's coming, and it's going to be, nothing that the world has ever seen before. So really looking forward to it. We'll have all the information available together with it.
Yeah, and let's take one more question here, and then we'll do a giveaway and get out of your guys' hair. BitSource over on YouTube writes in and says, will we get the opportunity to interact with players as a reward in the metaverse?
The short answer is yes. And the long answer is we're working on it, and will be coming later on in the season. There will be player ambassadors for NFL PA Legits. We'll have more information about that, and be patient.
Stay tuned. And that does us for today, everybody. Let's give away our last. We have one more giveaway. Who is the last player that we are giving away for our inaugural Essential Packs?
All right, so the last guy, teammate of Aaron Donald, another lesser known player by the name of Jalen Ramsey. That was a joke. He's one of the best corners in the NFL. So. Jalen Ramsey. He's our winner, dude.
Jalen Ramsey, huge. Our winner is the one and only MJC3337. MJC, congratulations. MJC. I know for a fact MJC is a huge EPL fan. So now he can dive in headfirst into the NFL with the quality Jalen Ramsey essential.
Beautiful.
And that does us for today, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Please head over to Discord. Hit us up on social media if you have any questions. Share this AMA with your friends if they have questions, and feel free to watch it back. It will be available on YouTube at this same link, and you can watch it back and review exactly what's coming, when it's coming, and how the essentials and the mementos and the legits are going to break down and play out for everybody. Thank you again, Idon, for taking the time. And Matt, do you have final words?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple things. Just a reminder that tomorrow we are going to be doing the Upland Auction House. We are going to be giving away 5 more legit essentials during that show. So you definitely won't want to miss out on that. Also, stay tuned for details. We will be releasing details on pricing, registration, stuff like that later today. So just keep an eye on Discord and in the app, or however you want to look at, or in the events hub. We are going to be releasing more details, so just stay tuned for all that stuff. But we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you guys for joining us, and super fun to present this. I'm really excited about all of this.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye-bye.